IPEM International students, I welcome you to your iLearn English language class. I am Mrs. Serene Little and today we will be studying about the fourth topic of your English language paper, that is comprehension, passage and Precis writing. The word comprehension means the ability to understand. A passage is given with some questions to test your reading skills. Points to remember while attempting the comprehension passage. Do not spend more than 30 minutes on this section. I repeat, you are not to spend more than 30 minutes on this section, that is the comprehension passage and Precis writing. You are to skim and scan this passage. Skim here means to read the passage quickly at first to get an overall view of what it contains. Then scan means to reread the passage slowly in order to understand it thoroughly. You are to write the meaning of the words in the exact same tense and form as the given word. That is, there will be 3 words and you will be asked to write the meaning of those words. While writing the meaning of those 3 words, you will have to ensure that you write the meanings in the exact same tense and form as the words given from the passage. You have to take care to ensure that the meanings given by you should be able to replace the words from the passage without altering the meaning of the sentences. Then go through the questions. After reading the questions, read the passage again. Mark and underline the answers to each question in the passage. Then write the answers to the questions in your own words. Make sure that your answers are complete sentences and are relevant and to the point, simple and grammatically correct, and not copied from the passage. I hope you have understood this part where you have to read the passage once again after going through the questions. While reading the passage, you have to mark and underline the answers of the questions. Thereafter, you are to write those answers by framing complete, relevant, to the point, simple and grammatically correct sentences of your own instead of copying from the passage. Now, there is an exception to this rule of not copying from the passage. You are not allowed to copy from the passage unless you have been asked about a specific statement or line or sentence that tells you about a situation or speaks about a particular thing or brings out the meaning of something. Then you have to quote the line or statement or sentence from the passage. I hope you know the rules of quoting, which is to begin the sentence with open inverted commas and end it with close inverted commas and a full stop. So only in this case, when you are asked to write about a specific statement or sentence or line that tells you about something, are you allowed to directly lift from the passage. Now, exactly like the word meanings, the tense of your answer should be the same as that of the question. For example, if the question is in the present tense, then you have to write your answer in the present tense as well. And if the question is asked in the past tense, your answer should also be in the past tense. You are not to alter the tense of your answer. It should be the same as that of the question. even if you know more facts about the topic from external sources. Now, the topic here means the comprehension passage, the passage itself. Now, what is this passage? This passage is nothing but an extract or excerpt from a story, a novel, or a play. And it is quite possible that most of you must have read that particular passage beforehand. And you must be knowing a lot of things about that particular story or play or novel. But it doesn't mean that you will show off your extra knowledge while writing the answers of the passage. You are not supposed to do that, but are supposed to stick to the facts and information given in the passage. Please limit your answers to the facts and information provided in the passage itself and nothing beyond that. Precis writing. In the last question of the comprehension passage, you are asked to write a precis wherein the total number of words are prefixed. In your case, it is 50 words. Precis writing is often confused with summary writing, but it isn't. Precis means exact and accurate while being detailed and specific. So you've seen that precis means exact and accurate while being detailed and specific, whereas in a summary, you are allowed to restate the author's main ideas only after omitting certain parts of it, which means that you can write the same things that the author has written by removing certain parts of it. You don't have to change it into your own language. But in a precis, you have to convert everything in your own language, in your own words. You have to write in your own words, and it has to be specific, that is specific to the question asked. There will always be a question and you have to answer that question in the form of a precis. In the last question of the comprehension passage, students are asked to describe or narrate a specific part of the passage. It requires condensing skills. Condensing means reducing the length of a text by removing unnecessary words and by expressing the content more concisely in your own words. It means that you have to use your own words to express briefly the main idea and relevant details of the specific part of the passage according to the question asked. So please do not write a summary, but write a precis of 50 words for the last question. Even though I have mentioned ICSE here, you all are well aware of the fact that the comprehension passage and precis writing is a compulsory part of your question paper from class 6 onwards. Hence, it cannot be avoided. So while attempting this question, you are to write only the key points of some specific parts of the passage. Remember, your precis has to be of 50 words only. Be careful in deciding which are the relevant parts and which aren't. Sometimes the question even mentions which paragraphs you are supposed to refer to. Your precis should neither exceed 50 words nor should it be fewer than 48 words. Precis writing steps. There are certain steps or rules that you have to follow while writing a precis. Step number 1. You are to first make a grid with a pen and ruler. Don't worry about the word grid. I will show you what it looks like later on. First, you have to understand that you have to draw that with a pen and ruler and not with pencil. Because if you draw the grid with a pencil and leave it like that, marks will be deducted. Then in my grid, this is the grid. This is how it looks like. Now in my grid, I have 10 columns and 5 rows. So the columns are the ones with the vertical lines and the rows are the ones with the horizontal lines. So my grid has 10 columns, 10 vertical lines and 5 rows with 5 horizontal lines. But you, students, you have to make your own grid with 5 columns and 10 rows instead. So instead of having 10 of these vertical lines, you have to have 5 of these vertical lines and 10 horizontal ones. You have to number each column and each row. Like you see, all my columns and rows have been numbered. So you also have to number your columns and your rows. And if you see carefully, there are 50 blocks or cells or squares for the 50 words that you have to write. So you have to neatly fit each word into each square. And then at the bottom, you are to write total number of words depending on the number of words that you have written. I've already told you that you can write between 48 to 50 words. So if depending on your word count, you will have to write the total number of words. Ideally, it should be 50 and not more than that. It could be 49 or 48 as well, but not less than that. Step 2. You are to write the rough draft of 50 words with a pencil in the grid, one word in each square. The punctuation marks are to be kept with the words inside one square. Make sure not to use hyphenated words like high-rise, far-flung, empty-handed, eye-opener, etc. You've already made the grid with a pen. Now you are to write the 50 words with a pencil. So that will be your rough draft. You are to write your rough draft with a pencil inside the same grid that you have made. Keeping in mind the words that the words will go into each square. The punctuation marks are to be kept with the words inside one square. Now the punctuation marks here refer to commas and full stops. I repeat, commas and full stops. That's it. You are not to use hyphenated words. You are not to quote anything. You are not to use any other punctuation mark, but to use commas and full stops along with the preceding words. So the word after which you are to put the comma or the full stop has to go along with the comma and full stop into a single square. Please keep that in mind. Otherwise, your word count will increase, you will exceed your word count and marks will be deducted for that. Step 3. Read the rough draft and make as many changes as required to ensure that your Precis is limited to the 50 word count. Again, you have to read the rough draft and you have to make changes. That is why you have been asked to write with a pencil so that you can erase all your mistakes and keep on making changes so that you can write a Precis of 50 words. Once you are happy and satisfied with your final draft, pen down each word neatly and move on to the next question. You can come back later to rub off the pencil mark once the ink has dried. So, after making all the changes, when you are happy and satisfied with your final draft, you can pen down each word neatly and move on to the next question. You don't have to rub off the pencil marks. You can complete the other questions and then come back to rub off the pencil marks once the ink has dried. Care should be taken not to exceed 20 to 25 minutes in this section. So like I had told you in the beginning, you should not take more than 30 minutes in this section. That is the comprehension passage and Precis writing section. Please keep that in mind. Now, Precis writing guidelines. To write an effective Precis, read the passage several times for a full understanding. Note key points. It may in fact be helpful to underline these words. I had already told you in the beginning that you are supposed to mark and underline the words or the answers to the questions. Do not use abbreviations or contractions. Abbreviations or contractions are short forms. You are not allowed to use short forms. Do not quote examples of figures. When writing about the past, use the past tense. I have already told you about the tenses. You have to stick to the same tense as the question. Use indirect speech. Never quote dialogues. I have already told you that in a Precis, you have to use indirect speech. You have to write in your own words and you are not to quote dialogues. Only commas and full stops are allowed. No other punctuation mark has to be used. These marks will be put in the cell of the preceding word. I have also explained this particular point that you are only allowed to use commas and full stops, and the commas and full stops are to go into the cell with the preceding word, the word after which you put the comma and the full stop. Ensure a smooth, logical flow of points. Do not write very long sentences. You are not to write very long sentences, but to keep them short and make sure that the points flow in a smooth and logical manner. Finally, check your Precis against the original to be sure that it is exact and retains the order, proportions and relationships of the original. After you've completed your Precis, you have to check your Precis against that of the original, and you have to make sure that the way in which you have written the points is exactly the same, that is the order in which you have written the points or the sequence in which you have written the points is exactly the same as that of the passage. With this, we have come to the end of the video, and I hope to have cleared a lot of your doubts and queries by this video, and that you will not have any problems in attempting question number 4, which is the comprehension passage and Precis writing section. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe and stay connected while learning in a smarter way through the iLearn platform.